everybody. I hope you're keeping very well. I'm Chef Audrey and it's lovely to have you here in my kitchen today. Today we're going to have some fun and we're going to take some of those vegetables you've been growing in your garden and we're going to create a very simple dish and have a little taste of them too. Hands. Really important before we start anything, we make sure we have a clean table, clean utensils and of course clean hands. We don't want to make ourselves sick. So we've talked about hygiene. We're going to talk a little bit about safety now because it's really important to make sure that you have a clean, dry and stable board. So what I have done is I've taken my cloth, I've dampened it to make sure that it doesn't slip, and I fold it nice and flat down and I put my chopping board on top and my chopping board doesn't slip. Just to give you an example, if I hadn't got that on, the board slips really easy. So we don't want that to happen when we're using our knife. So dampen your cloth, lay it nice and flat and put your chopping board on, making sure it's a stable, firm board. If you have it all crumpled underneath it, the chopping board will tip. So, and you don't want that either because you might slip and cut yourself. So first of all, we're going to go through some of the ingredients we have here from your garden. We have some garlic, some carrots straight from the garden as well. I've kept these green carrot tops because you can use those. You can chop them up and blend them up and use them in a little pesto, but don't throw them out. We don't want to waste any food. We have sesame oil, soy sauce, some lovely fresh coriander and some lettuce leaves. So the first job we're going to do is we have boiled a pot of water, or you can use your kettle. Just pour some water into a bowl. I take my rice noodles and I'm going to place my rice noodles into the bowl. And give them a little stir with a spoon. I'm going to just leave them to set there for 15 minutes. The water does not need to be boiling. It needs to have come to the boil to make sure that we have killed any bacteria in it. And this is just going to soak up into the noodles to make them nice and soft. So all we need is time. We don't need any more temperature. Give it a little stir to make sure that the noodles don't all stick together and that they are nice and separated. Going to leave that, just let it set for 15 minutes while we prepare the rest of the ingredients. Now I have a bowl of water here for handiness. But I'm going to take 2 of my carrots. I'm going to give them a wash even before I peel them, because there could still be muck on them from the garden, and we don't want to contaminate our chopping board or anything like that. So just make sure that they get a good scrub. Now we are going to peel them today. But you can leave the skin on. That's lovely and it gives you an extra added crunch. If you give it a good scrub, make sure that there's no little stones or anything caught in between. So I've just given my carrots a nice wash there. Carrots washed. I'm going to take a good bunch of coriander. Add that in there. My mint. Pick each one of the leaves off the mint. So I have them washed, but I'm going to keep a couple of my big leaves to the side. Same with the coriander. So if you take your little stem like this, you see that leaf? Pick a few of them off. Now I don't want you to throw out the stems because coriander is very good. You can eat the stems and all. So coriander is one of those herbs that is used in international cooking. There are a number of names for coriander. It can be known as Chinese parsley, but also cilantro. And it gives a nice freshness to the dish. So I have my other mint here as well, and I'm just going to take it out of the water. So take that out of the water there. Shake that off and just leave it to drain just for a little minute, and we're going to chop those. So we have our lettuce. I'm using a baby gem lettuce here. They're nice little leaves, gives a nice crunch, nice colour, and quite tasty. So I'm just going to peel the lettuce leaves off. When I get down to the end, then I literally just break the stalk, keeping my food waste to the side, and just peel them all out. It's really important to peel them and get them all, separate all the leaves, have a look, make sure that there's no little insects hanging around in these little spots in here, in between the folds. Although some might say it's a nice bit of added protein. And right the way down till I get to the very tiny little bit of the stalk is all I won't eat, because that's quite bitter. That gets very bitter. So give them a good wash. And I'm going to, same thing, give it a shake. So when you get it, give it a shake. Get rid of all that excess water and just put it on your towel to dry. So we're going to pat that down in a minute. Take it out in a lump, give it a shake. Try not to get it on everybody. And we have our lettuce ready to go. I'm going to take my lettuce and I'm just going to lay it out there just so that I can get the excess water off it, because we don't want to dilute the flavour that we're going to get from the other lovely ingredients. We're just going to give it a gentle pat down. You don't want to crush it. If you crush it, you bruise it. And once that's nice and dry, I'm going to tip it out onto my chopping board. So we've washed our lettuce, we're going to shred it. So I'm going to show you how to cut your lettuce. So these come in nice little lettuce cups, which is really great because we can pile a couple of them in and make them into a nice little roll. We're going to cut using what I call the claw. You need to get your hand into a claw-like action. And the reason we do that is because we use these 2 fingers to hold your food and these 3 fingers to stabilize it. And then using our knife, being very careful. Knives are very sharp, so it's really, really important that you use your knife safely. You always make sure it's down. You make sure there's nobody else around you when you're going to use your knife. And you only use it for the job, and you put it straight back down, visible where people can see it. Never ever put your knife in the sink either, because you might dip your hands in and cut yourself. So you pick up your knife, you make sure the handle is nice and clean and dry, and you take a firm grip. So it's really important to get a firm grip on your knife. And even if you're using a little small knife, the same thing, it works both ways, a firm grip. So here I have the firm grip. This one is nice and serrated, so it's like a saw type action. I have rolled my lettuce and I'm going to use it in a sawing type action from back to forward. I'm going to make sure that my nails are back, and I'm going to use my knuckles as the guide. Now, not going high enough that I slice my knuckles, but the knuckles on the tip, the very end of the knife. So again, I'm just taking my knife, going to tip my nails back to make sure I don't cut them, and I'm going to slice through nicely. Slowly is better. It's really important to get your technique right and do it more slowly rather than try and speed it up. So getting your technique is key. when I get down to the end, then I just take my hand away and finish it like that. So shredding our lettuce all up nicely like that. Going to peel our carrots today using our peeler. So you grip your carrot nice and tight, grip your peeler nice and tight, and run using a slight pressure, run your peeler down the carrot. Rolling the carrot around, so you roll the carrot around, and then to do the other end, do the same thing. Roll it around slightly and peel your carrot. So we'll do it one more time. Holding your carrot nice and tight. Roll your peeler all the way down, giving it nice pressure. So I'm using putting a little bit of pressure there to hold the peeler against the carrot. And turn it up the other way. Really, really important. You never do anything towards you. You always cut away from yourself, peel away from yourself, because it can very easily slip and stab you, and you don't want to do that. So always push the carrot and peel and chop away from your body. This is what we call topping and tailing. So your carrots might not be ready yet. They can take a little bit longer to grow. We're going to do our carrots into some nice strips. So we're using the peeler. We're going to keep the carrot in the base of the board, and we're going to peel down our carrot. Just keep going. I have the smaller end at the top because I get more out of the bottom, and I don't want to waste anything. So there you can see we're getting some nice strips, and you can turn around to this side then. Then keep our board nice and free so that, and when you get near the end, just put the carrot straight down on the board and hold the end and push the peeler down, and that will peel it straight away from you. You can see there you get through almost all the carrot until it's nice and thin, and then you can chop the very last bit because we don't want to waste that. I'm going to bunch and roll up our coriander. Bunch and roll up our coriander. I'm using the stalks as well. And the same thing, we're just going to give a nice little chop of our coriander. And when I get to the end, keeping my knife on the board, I just, nice seesaw type action, just to chop it nicely, slide under. Wiping it off my knife but away, making sure that I don't put my finger anywhere near the blade at all. I have my coriander chopped. The same thing, bunch the mint up into a little, and I'm going to shred my mint up in the same way. Remembering to keep those fingers away from your knife and use it like a seesaw, like a rocking horse even. Roll it back and forward. Give it a nice little chop. Next we have our garlic, and they come in these nice little bulbs. So to separate that up, you can peel it or you can press down on it and it just bursts it open, and you can see all these nice little cloves. They have a nice pinky colour on them. We're going to each take a clove of garlic. You can get rid of this white skin, we don't need that. So when you have your clove of garlic, you're going to press down and crush it. And see, when it crushes like that, the skin will just pop off it. And that's what we want to do. We just want to pop the skin off. With our knife, then we're going to just take away that little stalk on the end. We're going to use our little knife and we're going to cut it into nice little slices, as thin as you can, using your claw hand again. And as you get towards the end, turn it over and make sure you have a flat base. So you're always looking to have a flat base on anything. And there we have our little flat base. So I'm going to cut straight down in lengths again, just to make little strands of the garlic. And then I am going to gather them all up. I'm going to gather them all up, and I'm going to start and I'm going to chop it lengthways now. So I've done it long strips. Now I'm going to chop it into little dice, so very small little pieces. As small as you can get it, nice and slowly. So now I'm going to put my garlic into a little bowl. One teaspoon of honey. 3 teaspoons of sesame oil. I'm using a toasted sesame oil here. Once you toast the sesames, it releases the oils and the flavors, and you get a really, really lovely nutty taste. And then we're going to go with our soy sauce. So we have a dessert spoons of soy sauce, and we want 2 dessert spoons of soy sauce. Soy sauce can be quite salty, so it's important only to use what's in the recipe. And we'll give that a little stir up there. And let the flavours develop in that. So you got lovely, nice. And that's going to be your sauce. So we put that there aside. Rice noodles are ready there. So I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to drain my rice noodles. Hang on to that water because I'm going to need that. You can see there, we have our rice noodles, nice and al dente. So they're not soggy, they're nice and stringy still. They have a nice little bit of bite in them. Now, I'll just run them under a little bit of cold water to stop them, to prevent them from cooking any further. And I'm just going to drain them off again. We have them nice translucent. Now, do you remember the warm water we have from our from earlier on? Our warm water we have left from our rice noodles we've taken out. I'm going to take some of my rice paper. These are nice translucent sheets. They're very delicate, so it's really important only to leave them in the water for a couple of seconds. Tea towel ready. And I'm just going to pour that warm water into a bowl with the rice paper, keeping them separate. And you only want them in there for 10 or 15 seconds is all. Just make sure they're not make sure you separate them, put them in individually. So put them in individually to keep them separate. And definitely don't leave them too long. So you can see they start to become nice and pliable. So I have my tea towel. My paper, I've just dipped it in warm water. Dry it off. I'm going to flip this over, so grab the back of it, pretend you're going to tug it off the table. Tip it over and just peel it away from your tea towel. Put your tea towel aside, and now we have for our filling. So remember those leaves I asked you to keep. I want you to do a nice little design. So we have some in the center. So if you take your pie chart, you divide it in quarters, take your center line, your equator, but leave 2 fingers either side, 2 good fingers either side, 2 grown-up fingers either side. And we're going to place our mint and those coriander leaves I asked you to keep. And that's going to be a nice design, so that's, wait till you see that when it's done. We're going to take our rice noodles next. Going to take a nice little handful of them, roll them around, and just place them in the center. The very center, leaving the nice gap either end, that's really important. Going to take some of our carrot and we're going to lie it across the top. These nice little carrot ribbons. Gives a nice crunch and really lovely colour. Going to take some of our minted coriander and sprinkle it all along. This will give a really nice little freshness to your dish. Gives you a really nice taste of summer. And that's partially why they're called summer rolls, a take on spring rolls. Going to take our lettuce now. Top our lettuce up. And we're going to take from the left hand side and bring that into the center. Turn around to the right hand side, lift your roll up and tip that into the center then as well. And now this is the hard bit. We're going to wrap our Christmas present. We want to do this kind of quick before it gets too sticky. So we have this and it's getting kind of sticky. See the way it's sticking to my fingers? And I want to use my claw to keep all my ingredients tucked into bed. And I'm going to roll that over. If it bursts out, don't be afraid to tuck it back in. And just making sure all your ingredients are nice and tucked in. Tip it up and roll it over. And there we have our lovely summer roll. I'm going to put that on my plate. And I'm going to serve it with a little bit of my sauce. Give your sauce a stir because it'll separate into your little dish, your little dipping dish. And she'd love to have that on a Saturday night. It's your little summer roll.